Welcome to the CoreWalking podcast, the step in the right direction. I'm your host, Jonathan Fitzgordon.
And I'm Caitlin Fitzgordon.
My lovely co-host. And today we're going to be talking about attachment parenting. So this goes off the topic of like what the pod usually focuses on, which is body and pain relief, but we're going to try to connect it in. But today we're going to talk about the parenting choices Caitlin and I have made for better or worse, and what exactly attachment parenting is, how we came to choose this path. So, Kate, what would your origin story be of our attachment parenting journey?
I think it started with our choices around pregnancy and birth. You know, I was pregnant for the first time with our daughter, and you went to body work with Sandy Jamrog, who became my mentor and had a huge influence on our lives and our parenting. And she said immediately, "You're going to have home birth." And my memory is you came home and you're like, "We're going to have home birth." And I was like, "Excuse me? Like, this is not your decision." And, you know, as I continued to explore options, I landed on that as well. Like 100% felt like the right move. And I feel like within those circles, like there were a lot of people like making that choice is very unconventional. So like we started our parenting journey doing something that was outside the box, outside the norm. And that continued as we explored different parenting choices. Like we chose attachment parenting because it aligned with who we are as people and what kind of made sense for us instinctively. And that was also kind of an outside of the norm choice. So I'll pause there. You tell me about your.
Well, one interesting thing, and aside about the home birth thing, is when I was younger, my brother and sister both traveled a lot. They're 5 and 7 years older than me, and they met this Dutch guy, Robert de Jean, and he came to New York once, and he treated me like they would have friends come in and from visiting around the world and stuff, and they didn't always treat me so well, but this guy treated me so well, and it was so crazy. We hitchhiked to Staten Island to a guitar store that he wanted to go to. Like it turns out it's like a seriously famous guitar store, but he was just so kind to me, which had a huge influence on me. He was just a really nice guy. And I was under the impression that he had his children in home births in the Netherlands. And that was definitely part of the influence. Like when Sandy said that to me, I had a reference in my brain of like, oh, I respect this dude. This is what he did. Of course, it turns out it's not what he did. I mentioned it to my sister. She's like, they didn't have home births. They had water births, which we explored. We had a water tank. The first, I think, did we have a water tank for Reggie as well?
We had a tub for Reggie, but it didn't work. Yeah.
So that
we'll do a whole podcast on birth another time.
Yeah, totally. So I will say that you guided me a lot on this journey. I have a lot of opinions about many things, and it's not like I didn't get involved in this journey, but I really did follow your lead with all of these things, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. And, you know, we also had great mentors and, you know, books that people told us about that made a big difference. Another really seminal book for us in that early journey was Reading the Continuum Concept, which I was just looking up the author of that. But basically, she goes around the world and studies how babies were treated and just notice, like, you know, in countries where a more attachment style of parenting was the norm, babies were just kind of integrated in life in a way, and like in her interpretation, we're calmer, we're happier. I mean, we can go into, you know, what's true and not true about that, but that was a big influence on me. And I think again, like it wasn't that I was like, oh, I have to do this. It was like, yeah, that just made sense to me. Like that's what I felt in my heart too about what I wanted to be as a parent. So maybe we should define what attachment parenting is. How would you define it?
It's like with all the books you gave me, I probably read the introduction, never got past it, which is totally my way. I see attachment parenting. I mean, I take it literally, right? It's like keeping the baby close to you to foster a sense of security and safety in a world that they have absolutely no agency in, right? Like they're just these blobs, and then how the parents choose to deal with them.
Lobs.
Well, I mean, to one degree or another, they are blobs.
Very dependent beings,
They're very
right? They're,
dependent beings.
yeah.
And so that's my take. What would your definition be?
I mean, yeah, I'm reading from Wikipedia. It's a parenting philosophy that proposes methods aiming to promote the attachment of mother and infant, but I would say parent and infant, um, not only by maximal parental empathy and responsiveness, but also by continuous body closeness and touch. This Wikipedia is saying that American pediatrician William Sears coined the term, and maybe he did. I don't know. I wasn't aware of that, but the baby book by Sears was definitely another like it was my Bible for that first year of Ida's life. So it also like the ways that we did it were like we consciously intentionally decided to bed share and learned how to do it safely and felt comfortable doing it. I was breastfeeding on demand, which meant not trying to put a schedule on it, not trying to sleep train, but just sort of like letting the child lead, feeding when they wanted to.
Can we back up one sec to
Yeah.
like the baby in the bed? Like when you say to learn the safe ways to do it, what is an unsafe way to do it? Because I think it's another just instinctual thing of go to sleep with your baby in the bed.
Yeah, I mean, most people around the world sleep next to their babies, like because they don't have, the space otherwise. They don't have, separate rooms for every person in the household. But so it's just like a normal thing, and humans like to be close to other humans when they're sleeping. But in our world, there are definite like ways of doing it that are more safe than others. I mean, some of the big ones are just not having excessive bedding, not using any drugs or alcohol when baby's in the bed. Obesity of the parent is a factor. Just making sure it's not an overly soft surface, not putting the blankets over the baby. I mean, so the baby mostly slept between us.
Totally.
And also like the height of the bed, like a lot of attachment parenting recommend like and in the circles that I was in and the online forums I would read, like people would say just get rid of your bed and put your mattress on the floor. We didn't do that, but like we'd have a bed rail on the side where the baby was.
But so it's interesting because I don't know if this is completely connected to attachment parenting, but there's a huge movement to not sleep with the baby in your bed, right? And that was a response to SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome, which I think still they don't really know the origin of it. And then there's the fear that you're going to crush your baby. You're going to roll over
Yeah.
and crush your baby. And which was really interesting. Like what I used to say to that in response to people saying that was like, when you were sleeping with a baby between us, there is like there was never any moment where either of us were close to crushing our baby. I felt that if I even came close, even if you were sleeping in dead deep sleep, your hand would have shot out to stop me.
I have a memory of actually that literally happening.
That's
Of
great.
me just like slapping you in the back. It's but some people are heavier sleepers. Like I think for us it worked. I wouldn't say this is a recommendation I make for everyone at all. I know people it didn't work for at all. No one slept, and like including the baby. And so like it just worked for us.
So I totally get that because I am just whatever you need to do is what you should do. Like you have to figure out what works for you. But to me, some of it is selfish, right? Because you're breastfeeding and I don't have to do anything. The benefits of the baby in the bed for you struck me as insanely great, right? The idea that, first off, I think cribs are like, putting your baby in a prison. You're literally putting your baby in a thing with bars. Like, let me out, let me out.
It's a
Um,
safety area.
look, I get it, right? But it's a prison. And so
I
let's say the
disagree.
idea,
I'm just saying that I disagree.
that's totally fine. Let's say your baby is in a crib, right? 6 months old or whatever. Literally, the baby cries for food. You have to wake up, which wakes you up. You have to get out of bed. You have to get the baby out of the crib. You have to feed the baby. You got to put the baby back in the crib. You got to go back to bed.
There's
And
no question for sleep. It worked for us and our
yeah,
babies.
no, I'm not saying that everyone should do it, but I'm saying that what I have memories of being awake and watching Ida like latch on to your boob without you even waking up,
Yeah.
right? Like, so that was just so, a lot of my drive is intuitive, right? Like, that was just such an intuitive choice to make. You mentioned like breastfeeding on demand. In a way, I feel like it was just baby on demand. Part of
Well,
attachment.
just being responsive. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like whatever they needed, we tried to fulfill. And that is not in the, I think, in the grand scheme of, the millions of years we've been on the planet, but in the modern world, that is a kind of radical approach, right? Like this idea of don't just fulfill all your baby's needs somehow is not the intuitive approach in our world.
Right. There's a whole thing about like you don't want to make your kid dependent or spoil them. And from my perspective, and just from like reading different books, it's like, an infant isn't manipulating you. You're not like training it to like be a demanding little prince who will never accept no. Like it's actually teaching them that they're safe and loved. And that's one way to do it. Like, I think I always want to have the caveat because I think early on, I probably would have been much more strident in my views. And just as I've gotten older and have lived more life, I'm much less strident and much more like, this was just what worked for us. And this is not the only way to create a like happy, to help support a child growing into a happy human. But yeah, again, it just like made sense to us. I want to go back though to the like,
I do think it is so worth trying if you have any instinct for it. That's the real thing.
yeah. And
Wait,
I think,
before you say that, I just want to go back to the fact, like, I'm pretty sure when you said manipulative baby, like we have this memory, right, of like someone in our weird little circle of Brooklyn parents, one saying like, yeah, like the 1-year-old, he's so manipulative.
right,
Like, what are you talking
right.
about? Like, he's one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, those early days are hard and you get through how you can. But what I wanted to just address that you touched upon is like the public health recommendations around baby in bed. And like, we're, we are not representing anything other than sharing what our, views are and what worked for us. But like, one of the things I always wish when I see the like very stridently anti-bed sharing messages from, the sort of higher vision of public health, that there's no acknowledgement that it happens. And so it's like people just do it secretly and maybe do it on the couch unsafely or don't understand how to do it safely. And that's where I wish there was just some nuance. And I understand why, a pediatrician might just be very black and white about it, like only put your kid in a crib. But I wish that there was some nuance to that, so that people could learn about the different, choices. And again, like it doesn't work for everyone.
And I just have to say, babies are just not fragile. And I have this phrase that I love that makes no sense in a certain way, right? But I say it all the time. It's the name of a record album by Soul Asylum, right? But I always used to say, babies are made to be broken. They are little Gumbies. So our daughter,
So, but you mean by that babies are resilient.
that is exactly what I mean. They're very resilient, which doesn't mean they can't fall and separate their shoulder. Not like they can't get injured, but we we looked to our left one day from our office and watched Ida climb out of the bed over the railing and take a header onto the floor,
Yeah.
right? We listened as she got out of the whatever her
The baby gate.
baby prison gate and just literally,
The top of the stairs, which is not a prison, that's a safety measure.
yeah, thank you, tumbled down the flight of stairs. Your mother, later on when we moved, so Reggie was a little older. Reggie's at the top of the stairs at the second floor, and your mother's at the base of the stairs, and Reggie literally rolls down, like falls the entire flight of stairs, no injury whatsoever.
I think
So,
you need a trigger warning on this episode because those stories are upsetting to some people.
no, I totally. So, anyway, my point is always be aware and concerned and vigilant, but babies are made to be broken. They are very, very, very resilient and can handle a lot. That's a really important thing for me because a lot of parenting fear, I think, for certain people is around that idea of like, I don't want to break my little China doll.
Yeah, right. You don't want to be so tentative that they never experience risk and like falling is how they learn about gravity and how to their bodies exist in space. And so if everything is protected, if they never experience anything like that, how do they learn how to safely like go up and down stairs? How to, without someone holding on to them. So as much as like I have memories of like going to playgrounds where there's that one really tall structure at Vanderbilt Playground and the kids when they were much older, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, would like want to climb to the top of that. And I just like couldn't look. I'm
Oh
like,
yeah, Reggie would scream for me, and I'm like, I
I
want you to
can't watch.
can't watch, which is so not me. I would never have thought that was going to be me.
Yeah.
My testicles rose up into my stomach, like it was the feeling. So I was like, that to me, and I don't think it's literal, but that's an attachment parenting choice. This idea of it freaked me out that he was doing it, and but I wasn't willing to project my fear onto him, right? I
Yeah.
wasn't going to say, don't do that because I'm afraid you're going to get hurt. I want you to be able to do it without me projecting. And I was really strangely freaked out by because I know the structure you're talking about, right? Like it was pretty,
Vanderbilt Playground in Brooklyn. I assume it's
yeah,
still there.
I totally see it. It was the dome, like the geodesic dome thing. Yeah, so I want to go back to a baby in bed thing that I think is also really interesting. Because, as a male, it's meaningless for me to be an advocate for it because, like, I just sleep in the bed. But I think another thing about people thinking about bed sharing is you'll never get the child out of the bed. Like, you do this, they're never going to leave. So our story was Ida was 2.5 and you were pregnant and with Reggie. And it was really just like this we were in a pretty small apartment and it was just this confluence of events. But Chelsea, forget her name, they just put a free bed on like Facebook or whatever. And we said to Ida, do you want a bed? And she just said yes.
Yeah.
We get her this bed and we put it in our bedroom. So it's not like we moved her we didn't have a bedroom to give her. Like,
Right.
it was very Brooklyn living, but we put this single bed in our bedroom. She got out of the bed immediately, never once came back, right?
Right.
Like, never woke up and crawled back in the bed. And then along comes Reggie, who literally would have slept with us for 9 years.
I mean, he kind of did.
Yeah, he would have like never left given the opportunity. And I think that's so interesting, right?
Right.
How
Right,
different.
because when I would talk to, I worked as a postpartum doula. So I was a childbirth educator and also worked as a postpartum doula. So I'd be, in homes with new parents talking about, sleep, because that's always a big topic, and just talking about different parenting choices. And so I always, shared and I was like, this might not be very reassuring because, it was a very easy transition for one kid and there wasn't really the transition was much longer for the other kid. And I think what's really interesting and helpful about that story is like also every kid is different and unpredictable. In the same way that like
I,
this like choice really worked for all of like for us as the adults and also for the babies to bed share. It doesn't always work for people. I know other people who like tried to do it and they're like, none of us slept. And so, yeah, I mean, I thought it
And
was
I totally get that, right? Like our kids, and I think there are reasons for this because our kids were both quote unquote late. One 17 days and one 18 days. Do I have those numbers correct?
42 and a half weeks and 43 weeks. So
And I actually believe because the babies got the chance to cook completely and come out when they were ready to come out, not through inducement or C-section or premature. I actually think that I don't have anything to prove it, but it's why they possibly slept more easily. Because I totally get that. Like some kids have very different energy at night and they are never going to sleep in the bed with you. And if they do, they're never going to let you sleep because they thrash and they kick and they squawk. So I don't know why our kids were easy in that way, but I do think that part of it was that they're just being out. They came out when they wanted to come out, not when we wanted them to come out, which is sort of like attachment parenting. It's like the beginning of attachment parenting in a weird way. We let them,
right.
dictate their own birth.
I don't know if there's any science behind that, but
Doesn't need to be
I
for
don't
me.
know if it's true.
No, I get that. I love that. I wait like when the kids were late with Ida when she was really late, and I called my mother and I was like, "Was I born late?" And she was like, "There was no late in 1963."
You just got induced?
No, I think she had natural childbirth.
Oh, that there wasn't as much of a deadline.
I don't think there was any. I'm not positive.
Interesting, because I think my mom was induced for at least two of us.
Right. But she
And the deadline is legitimate. Like,
is it?
yes, statistically, while the risks are still, pretty low for anything going wrong with a baby, the longer you stay pregnant, the likelihood of, things not being great does increase incrementally every day. So,
But who made up 40 weeks? Where'd that come from?
I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll do some research for the pregnancy one.
Yeah. So
But
now
I think,
I am really interested in that because again, like we'll be all kids are not perfect. They're very normal and they have their own troubles. But I do believe that certain choices we made their entry easier. So I'm very curious about that because I really do think letting them. I mean, it's harder on you, obviously, uh, but letting them cook fully, I think was a
yeah,
really good thing.
I have no idea if there's anything to that. To me, I place it more on like their kind of who they are as people and
Yeah,
what their nature is, and on the fact that we were calm about it too, like that this was just what we were doing and we weren't trying to, we just we're very go with the flow people. And so again, like why the
for
sleeping
yourself.
thing, what?
Speak for yourself.
You wouldn't call yourself a go with
I
the flow person?
definitely go with the flow person.
Yeah. And so while we like to me it was like that's how we got more sleep. Putting the baby in the bed with us is like that's how I
Totally.
got more sleep. Like it was just less disruptive as you described before. Like if you have to get the kid out of a crib and then feed it and then put it back to bed and soothe it, like all that. It was just like, nope, baby wakes up, feed it, we're all back to sleep. So yeah.
Yeah, there's no question that really worked for us, and I believe that anything that works for me should work for anyone. So,
Right.
oh, it's really interesting. My job is to have opinions, and my job is to act like I'm right about everything. I
Is
don't.
it?
Oh, absolutely. As a teacher, what is the point of me waffling? I don't have to be right. Like if you tell me I'm wrong about something, which you tell me all the time, and you're right, so I change my view, right? But as a teacher, there's just zero point in me not being 100% confident. That's my job. I'm selling you on you should change your body this way, right?
Yeah.
So I'm very big on having my opinion without necessarily needing it to be right. I'm very willing to change. But so like I have a lot of opinions about C-section, and I don't think it's the best outcome. But would I ever tell anyone not to have a C-section if you need to have a C-section, right? It's just like it's clear that babies born with a C-section are completely fine babies. That doesn't mean there aren't real, genuine, incredible benefits to a vaginal birth. There's muscle work, there's spine work, their body has to do its own, it's the birth of the cervical curve. It's a very different thing. And I just, so there, I'm always of an opinion. There's one is better than the other, but it doesn't mean it's bad to have the other. Another thing
Yeah, and I disagree. I mean, and I think part of why is, there's just so much judgment out there. And what's the
yeah,
like in the world? And like navigating this time is so challenging anyway. And as I was thinking about preparing for this podcast, I was thinking about like why attachment parenting really worked for me is, or one of the things that was so essential in it was to find community around it because there's just so many opinions out there and so much judgment and so much inner judgment, right? Like, so when I hear you say C-sections are not as good as vaginal birth, I want to be like, absolutely don't ever say such a thing
well,
because
but I did say there's nothing wrong with a
I
C.
know. But for someone who had one, who didn't want one, it's just like,
I get it. I am totally like, I get that.
yeah.
That was the whole preamble of I'm an opinionated jerk. Here's my opinion. But
But
I
I
do want to
think,
say one other thing about C-sections before we move on, which is something I say a lot, which is an insane thing. Because I do think in a lot of ways in our world, women get the shaft. And C-sections are fairly common. And there are a lot of different reasons why. And there are a lot of people who think a lot of C-sections are happening at 5 o'clock on a Friday because the doctor doesn't want to interrupt their weekend. Like there's a lot of weird things around it. But one of the things I say about C-sections, which is so intense, is it's a major surgery, right? Like it is a major abdominal surgery. They are cutting you open, and it is not given that respect in general. It's like C-section. Okay, you're gonna have a C-section, and then, and I could be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. It's the only surgery on the planet where the surgery ends and you are asked to take care of somebody and
right.
you're not getting taken care of. And
Yeah.
to me, that concept is so, there's something really wrong.
That's where I do agree with you because if you
Oh,
look at like our our healthcare system, it's a travesty how new parents and especially the birth parent are not cared for. From the basics of like pelvic floor rehab, which is standard in many European countries, that there's like someone who comes to your home in France after giving birth for 6 weeks, that not every day, but like, once a week to give you pelvic floor PT. Like, that's a huge benefit. Here I am 19 years later, still working on pelvic floor issues. And who's to say whether that would have been different had I had the care initially? Because I have had a lot of care over the years and I did have giant babies. But yeah, I mean, the idea that we have don't even have like standard paid family leave is absurd. It's a
it's
travesty.
absurd. I love the freaking Netherlands, the baby box.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're born and they send you home from the hospital or wherever you have your baby
In
with
the
a
Netherlands, they have
box.
like birth hotels.
Yeah, like, but the baby box is amazing. You can see it online. Like, they are literally hooking you up with
Yeah.
the first month of your baby or whatever.
Yeah. And
It,
that women, like, people giving birth, have to go back to work 6 weeks. You know, it's hard. 3 months
it,
even is hard when you see other countries that have much longer recovery time.
no, and totally. Look, you didn't go back to work, and we struggled, right?
Yeah.
Like financially, we just made a choice to struggle for a number of years so that you could be with the babies. I don't. I never once had any regret about that, right? But it did make our life more complicated.
Right. Well, this is where we are like fly by the seat of the pants people, where like we like intentionally had a baby and then I was working full time and knew I wasn't going to go back, but we didn't have any plan. We're like, we'll just work it out. The $60,000 salary you were making, we'll figure it out.
We're still doing that as we prepare to send our second child to college,
Right.
all by the seat of our pants. All right, let's see. Where can we transit to?
I've an idea. We also, when the kids were really young, assumed we would homeschool because I think also in the like attachment parenting crunchy
You
like,
assumed we would homeschool.
oh, but you had all the plans. You were like, Marky is going to teach theater. Like, you were all about, we're like, we're never going to school as a prison. We will never send our children there. And we would read on the forums about like, oh my God, the local elementary school like puts TV on for the kids at lunchtime and we like Tom and Jerry cartoons and we were horrified. And then that's where we ended up sending our kids and like they had a wonderful experience. But I think that's the other thing that while we had, I think, the attachment parenting thing was a foundational thing when the kids were really young. There was this whole like natural parenting movement that I really subscribed to in a big way. And then there were just like some pretty conventional choices that we made too, because that's also what worked for us.
No question. I might have paid lip service to homeschool, but I think I knew early on I wasn't cut out for it. Parenting was not easy for me. Thank God for you, because before they were verbal, it was just not fun for me. I didn't marvel in my babies. Like everyone was like, wait till your child is born, your life is going to change the first second you see the baby. And I was like, yeah, all right. Everyone's different, right?
And we had to really work on that. I mean, because my tendency was to be so responsive to the babies and it was sort of easy. You were a little bit less attached, you were a little detached, but you were very involved. I think it was easy for you to like let me do everything.
Yeah,
And
yes, it was.
I, right. And because it was instinctive for me and it sort of took me getting like totally burnt out and exhausted. And then I think we talked about this last time where I had to just be like, hey, I can't do this all.
Yeah.
And you got more involved. But you were always on board with the like wearing the baby and the baby in the bed and all the things, which was great because we didn't have any conflict around that. Because I also have seen other partnerships where like one person feels like it should be one way and then there's a conflict there.
Yeah, so that actually, so two comments. One, to go back to homeschooling, I would say honestly, I regret not homeschooling our kids. Just I know we could not have done it. My friend Janet homeschooled her kid, amazing kid. Homeschool kids might be a little more precocious than I would like children to be, but I think that's a thing. But I do. I just kind of I regret that with the acknowledgement, like I don't think I was capable of pulling it off.
I mean, I definitely thought about it. I remember going to someone's house that I knew from the attachment parenting community who had been homeschooling her kids, and like I went to her home and just talked to her about the setup. And I think, yeah, I don't think either one of us was up for it. And I was exhausted. I think that's part of it. And one of the, I think, shadow sides of attachment parenting is it can feel so focused on taking care of the kids' needs that you lose touch with your own. And that absolutely happened to me. Like I was just exhausted, resentful, not enjoying life, especially like I think at the point the kids were like 2 and 4. And I just remember walking into our apartment at 570 and just like crossing the threshold and I would just have this like heaviness come over me. It was too much. And so I think that's one of the, if attachment parenting does feel aligned for you, you want to be really aware and conscious of not letting it consume you. Because
Yeah, and it was that was definitely part of that. It was intense because I had more of a life, right? Because you'd go to sleep at 9, and
yeah,
if there was a concert for me to go to, I can go to the concert,
yeah.
and it wouldn't really affect you, but there was just more freedom for me to live a life that I was used to, and yours was sort of taken away in a lot of ways, which is just like the
Yeah.
nature of the beast.
And
Um,
what I wanted, like I chose it, and it again, it felt instinctive. It's what it's, it's I got a lot of value out of being in this role of parent, of mother. It was really fulfilled me in a lot of ways, but I did not learn how to take care of myself at the same time or
so,
ask for
ab-
help until I
ab-
was like desperate.
no, absolutely. It's not hard for me to acknowledge my failings. And I am not maybe the best person at saying, how can I help? If you say, can you help? I never say no,
Right.
right? But it is not my instinct. And I will say, 20 years later, it has become my instinct way more. I definitely think, and not to be cliched, but aging changes things. I noticed in stupid things of where with our kids and there's an opportunity to sacrifice something. It is so easy for me to go, yeah, I don't care. Take it. You want that? Take it. You
Right.
need this. It's yours. Like in a way that I think I was more selfish back then. So that's just a like a mellowing thing.
Yeah, and what was the advice that you got from your friend?
Oh my God. So he'll go unnamed, but we were at a cocktail party or something. I forget where we were, but
Did you ever go to cocktail parties? That's a funny one.
no, we were, but we were somewhere social.
We were at a gathering.
Yeah. And he said, so listen, Johnny, here's the main rule. And you were standing there, right? Here's the main rule. Like when the baby wakes up and the baby's crying, don't move. Just don't move. Act like you're still asleep because trust me, she's gonna get up and deal with it. And I was like, great advice, dude. Thanks very much. And
How often did you do that?
wait a second, he wasn't joking. By
Right.
I don't think I ever. Well, what's the thing? Okay, if your partner is breastfeeding, there is no role for you in the middle of the night.
Uh, mm, I mean, I think there's like, how can I help?
Yeah,
Do you need anything?
that would have been ideal.
Can I
But
get you some water? Are you guys okay? Many
uh,
things you could do. But
yeah,
I
it was
hear you
definitely
that like you weren't faking it. You weren't like, oh, I'm gonna pretend I'm asleep. But like I was responsive, so you didn't have to do anything.
no, totally. And again, that feeds into my selfishness and my ability to take care of myself. Like I'm pretty good at that, right? Like I don't do a lot of things I don't want to do in life, which is just an unbelievable gift. Um,
But there's my advice to partners out there. If you are, if you're with someone who, if your partner is breastfeeding your baby and you feel like you don't have a role, that caring for the person breastfeeding is your role. How can I
uh,
help? That's your question. You want to always have that in mind. Are you okay? How can I help?
totally. And then this is like a digression, but it's something about home births. Because, in my world, people are talking to me about assorted things. And if they ever brought up home birth, I'm like, I so recommend home births. But if you and your partner are not on the same page, do not do it, right? If you are not 100% in agreement about the path you're about to take, do not do it because it gets real and it can get scary. And both of ours were really not scary or never got any danger of being transferred to the hospital. But in that moment, like if you guys are not on the same page, that can get really difficult. So,
And same with parenting, right? Like, if
absolutely.
you really have strong different opinions about how to do it, I mean, it's funny. Like, I feel like there wasn't a thing called parenting or different parenting choices when we were growing up, in the same way that, like, there was like this pressure to do it really well as we were doing it ourselves.
Well, my parents' parenting style was I'd say, Mom, can I have this? She'd say no. And I'd go to my father and he'd say yes.
Right.
There you go. That was it. So I thought we made a real conscious choice about that. And I know Reggie does it now, right? Where he'll ask you for something and then me. And I'm like, wait a second.
Right.
We made a
Exactly.
real conscious choice.
To be on the same page.
We're on the same page. Yeah. And that is just huge.
Yeah, for sure. And it's important to talk about it before, you're doing it. before getting pregnant if you're doing it with a partner. Like talk about it so that you kind of have an idea of what you want and what you want to create and who you want to be. And at the same time, you're not going to know until you're in it. Parenting challenged me in ways I never imagined. I'd never felt rage before. I'd never felt as exhausted before. It was a depth of love I hadn't experienced either, and like a totally natural, wonderful feeling, but also really powerfully exhausting and frustrating and hard.
Totally. And look, our kids are 17 and 19, and it's still hard.
Right.
Just is. And it's a cliche that you never stop parenting, but it's just very real. It's fascinating. All right, next up in the attachment parenting chat, where I would go with baby wearing.
Hmm.
Baby wearing an attachment parenting thing, like very, is that a,
Yeah, I mean, in the continuum concept, like most of the cultures that she looked at, I should give you her name, but wore their babies on their bodies. And Dr. Sears talks about that a lot. And the benefit to me was a calmer baby and free hands. So I could put the baby in a carrier on my body and I could do things instead of kind of feeling stuck. And I just remember like I don't even know where I would go, but I would be on the subway with her on my back in a carrier and she'd be falling asleep with her head lolling back and
and
you know,
people would want to fix her head, and you're
people
like,
would want to fix her.
don't touch my baby.
Yeah, exactly. Baby wearing was huge. I mean, I was a little crazy though because I mean, this is probably why my pelvic floor is weak, but like when we had two, I'd have Ida on my back and Reggie on my front.
But you're really strong. But I totally get that. I loved baby wearing. I found it was like it was a real, I mean, I loved it. I would walk the dogs. We had
Yeah.
these two dogs that were crazy, and I would walk them and wear her on my back, and that was just such a pleasure. I remember when you got pregnant, my mother was like, "Are you going to get rid of the dogs?" And I'm like, "Why would I get rid of the dogs?" And
Right.
that's all fear, and that's a lot of people feel that, And I'm like, let's have the dogs bother the baby before we get rid of the dog. And the dogs love the baby, and they had no problem with her. But I also felt like wearing her on my back when I was cooking was a really great thing. And I I have this memory of I was just not good at it. So I forget how old Ida was, but we had a friend in the neighborhood, Jen, who had a baby Zoe, and they were born right around the same time. And one night, because I'm a fool, I said, I am going to put Ida to sleep. You guys are going to go out. And you went to Cortellia Road to the farm, and I tried to put her to sleep and failed so miserably. And I was just wearing her. I used to wear her, play the album Tapestry over and over and over again. And I couldn't do it. I had to call you and be like, I'm done.
Right.
And I definitely have that memory. And,
Yeah.
to get her to sleep on so many nights, I would have to put her in the car and drive for like 40
I
minutes.
know we did a lot of driving.
It's
Get the
so, but
kids
it
to sleep.
works.
Yeah, it worked for our kids.
But think about that, like in terms of parenting, how lucky we were, right? We could drive for 40 minutes, she'd fall asleep, and we would be able to successfully transfer her
Right.
to the bed. And so many parents would be like, yeah, I can get my kid to sleep when I drive, but there's no transferring. As soon as I pick the baby up to take her, they wake right up. It's so fascinating what things work and don't work. And
Yeah, when she was asleep, she was pretty well
yeah, she
asleep.
was out. But so I really feel like baby wearing was unbearably convenient and positive.
It was amazing. It was so special. And I feel like it's a very bonding thing too. Like for
Totally.
us to be able to, just have that connection time to explore the world with them, to have them on our bodies, even though, it's hot in the summer. In the baby wearing communities, there would always be someone being like, what's the coolest carrier to wear in the summer? And it's like, you're just gonna sweat. It's part of it. But yeah, it just made getting around New York City easier. Felt like it was good for them to be connected, but also physically. Like Sandy Jamrog, our mentor in many things, focused a lot on infant developmental movement. And so the benefit of being upright and developing that head control and Connecting with your heartbeat, all of those things were very positive.
So the flip side is the whole bucket baby thing,
Right.
which
Babies who spend too much time in car seats, who, if you go from the car seat and you take the car seat out and put it in a stroller and move them inside and they stay in the car seat, like if too much time in the car seat, they don't have strong enough neck muscles, which can impact their vision and all these different things. So,
yeah, I tell the story. Imagine you're in your house and you're going to go to lunch. So you take your baby, you put it in the stroller, you go outside, and the stroller is like one of those things that it's a car seat stroller. So you take that stroller, the baby in that bucket, you put it into the car, you go to the restaurant, you put it back in the stroller, you go into the restaurant, you eat lunch while the baby naps in the stroller, you go back, you put it in the car, you go back home. 3 hours have gone by, your baby hasn't moved. The opposite is you wear your baby outside to the car. You have to take the baby off, which makes the baby help you. You put the baby into the car seat, just fine for that 15-minute drive. Then you have to take the baby out of the car seat, which the baby has to work to help you, and it has to hold on to you, and it works its neck, like you said.
yeah,
The difference in that whole journey, that 3 hours of like the gift you gave to your baby by making it move, strengthen, work, it
right.
is so easy to not understand that value,
Yeah,
right? And if everyone around you is doing the bucket to bucket to bucket, there is so little reason for you not to think otherwise. And that's really profound about our society. You have to be willing to think outside the box. And it's still difficult, even if you think out the box, to actually act outside the box. But that's a really big thing about baby wearing, that they work. They're getting strong right from the get-go.
yeah. I mean, I remember my aunt saying to me when Ida was 1 and I was still, breastfeeding her, still had her in the carrier, and my aunt was like, when is she ever going to learn to walk? It's just baffling to people what you do in that case. And, it's the other thing is like playpen sort of went out of style. But in a way, the benefit of a playpen is the kid gets to move around and roll around. And like if you ever watched a baby that's 6 months to a year old and you try to do everything that they're doing physically, it's exhausting.
I love that. There's a video of NFL football players trying to imitate babies on their belly,
Yeah.
and it ain't happening. They're just like shot immediately.
Yeah, I mean, just think about our friend's baby that we were with this week, who he's in my lap and he's just like up and down and squatting and up and down like 50 times. I'm like,
Never
that
stop.
I could never do that. Are you kidding me? It's amazing and beautiful.
Yeah. Let's see. Moving on. What do we want to? I don't know if this is an attachment parent. I think it has to be the idea of time in instead of time out. Is that attachment parenting?
I mean, it's adjacent, I think people in attachment parenting circles are probably lean more toward positive discipline. And I think we were really like we read a book called Punished by Rewards or Unconditional Parenting, I think is what we read by
Alfie
Alfie
Kohn.
Kohn. Yeah, who also wrote Punished by Rewards, which was more about education.
I love that phrase so much.
Punished by
Praise my
rewards.
rewards.
Yeah.
It
And
is
so this
such,
is the opposite, which is timeout isn't a reward. So that's a whole separate thing. But timeout to me just felt like punitive in a way that didn't align with what made sense to me.
yeah, counterintuitive.
Yeah. And time in, I remember getting a daily email from some guy who just gave like inspirational parenting nuggets. And it might have even been called time in, but about like how to sort of, if a kid is acting out, like what is the need? It means something, like understanding that instead of immediately, reacting and punishing. I mean, so it's sort of like gentle parenting, positive discipline. That's where we were coming from.
So, well, and then just as an aside, to go back to the baby in the bed for a second, like the intuitive, counterintuitive thing, it's that the idea that dependence fosters independence is counterintuitive to a lot of people. So I have to get my baby a crib. I have to get it its own room.
It needs to
And
learn to self-soothe. It needs to learn to sleep on its own.
yeah, that to me is insanity. But it's also a counterintuitive thing, like the idea that, look, if I envelop my child in comfort, love, and security, down the road, that's going to make them happier, healthier children. And
I always want to challenge the ear. I always want to challenge saying it's gonna make them happier and healthier because like there's so many other factors. But right, we did it because it felt like, well, I mean, there are studies on attachment theory that like creating a secure attachment does support someone's development as a human.
and obviously the flip side, that failing to create the strong
Secure
attachment.
attachment, yeah. And at
But
the
this
same time, like there are moments where our kids feel anxious and
is
we can't prevent that.
no, I mean
They
there.
are who they are too.
Yeah, I want to go back to that, but this is another thing about like intuitive, counterintuitive. We did that home birth class with Sandy, and not everyone was having home birth. So there was this other couple there that they were having a hospital birth. And he said to me, "So why do you want to have a home birth?" I'm like, "Why would I want to go to the hospital with all these lights and all these people around us and like noise? There's so much noise in a hospital and so much stress and I don't need a doctor there. Like, why would I do that?" And then I said, "Why are you having a hospital birth?" He goes, "For all those reasons. I want a doctor
Right.
near me. I like the lights." Like, I'm like, "Oh, great. Whatever works for
It's what
everyone."
makes you feel safer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what's just so intent and interesting. But that said, I do think it's crazy the idea of like martial parenting. The idea to me that punishment is going to serve your child, especially when they're really young, even if it's what you know and what makes you comfortable. I wish people could make a sort of a logical leap of what is it good to put my baby in a corner and take and withdraw my affection for them for 5 minutes? What point are they going to get from that other than my mother doesn't love me, or she only loves me if I behave a certain way, or like you can extrapolate that in many different ways.
I think the argument on the other side, even though we didn't do it, is it demonstrates that there's a consequence to your action.
That would be the positive if you wanted to come up with a positive for punishment. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, the argument for timeout is it shows a consequence. And I think that's again, it's the fear that if I don't do this, my kid's going to be an asshole. And it's funny, I just was reading a newsletter from someone that we did our yoga teacher training with who's talking about kids being bratty because they didn't have enough boundaries. And it's like, I think that that is one of the struggles when our commitment was to gentle discipline and positive discipline, that it can feel like there are no consequences. And so, how do you do it? If you're not doing timeout, what are you doing alternatively to demonstrate that, like, that is not okay? And I think for us, our kids were so verbal and I think have such like emotional and language skills that we could tell them with words, like, that's not okay. Didn't always stop the behavior, but
But I find that still to this day is an incredibly frustrating thing that I have no regrets, but our kids have never once been punished. They've
I
never
always disagree with that, but they have.
they've never been grounded.
There
They've
was
never
one
had
night when Ida was grounded.
that's funny. They've never had rights taken away. Like they've never had tickets for a concert that we said, you are now punished and you can't go to this concert you've been waiting, right? But as a now that they're 17 and 19, I have had conversations where I'm like, listen, we made a choice and we did not punish you, and you basically have no rules. So the only thing that's going to make you do the right thing now is respect. And hopefully it's there because I have to acknowledge I'm not going to start punishing you. That ship has sailed. So we have shown them
And
that
they're
the only
basically adults.
consequences for their action is their own sense of self and propriety and what is right or wrong. And I think that is really interesting because that is an insane leap of faith to make when your kids are young. That treating them,
Yeah.
because I think in a lot of ways, attachment parenting is so much about I respect you as an individual.
as a human, yeah.
Yeah. We're not going to get into
And
Alice Miller and that kind of stuff, which I love so much. Object theory, but it very
but
much is that. Yeah.
yeah,
Sorry.
we did have rules. And I just feel like I don't know, I think I'm like when you say we have no rules, it's like it was a free for all. And like
I'd say we actually didn't have rules, but we had a lot of structure.
we had structure and we have expectations, that there are if they were failing in school, if they were had no friends, if there were other signs that like something needed to change, we would adjust. They had bedtimes, they had yeah, structure, meal times, things like that. But yeah,
But
I
that's a
think
lot different, don't you think? Like the idea of structure and rules? Maybe not. Maybe there is no difference. But I
I
do. I
mean
think we
there
gave them a very, very structured childhood without a lot of you can't do this.
I wouldn't say very structured, but yeah, they had a structure. Like
Like
compared to other people who
we
were like
ate
on a
dinner.
schedule.
Oh, no question. But like we ate,
Um,
right. It's our version of a structure. But like we ate
yeah,
dinner together every night and
yeah.
that kind of
We
thing.
made delicious breakfast every morning. They weren't allowed to hit us. They weren't allowed to beat on each other.
It's interesting. They actually didn't really. They didn't act out that way. They didn't fight that way a lot, right?
Correct.
Me and my siblings, all we did is fight.
And
Physically,
your parents were punitive.
totally.
Not
Or
to disparage
they
their memory
tried to
because they're
be. They tried
wonderful.
and failed to be punitive.
But like they took away like your birthday party.
Oh my God. My mother was a monster in a lot of ways, but they also tried and failed.
Well, right. You
They'd say
took
you're
your own path.
grounded for 2 weeks. And then 3 days later I was back in my life.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, yeah. They had no control, but I'm not gonna get in now. Now I'm all sad because you reminded me of the 10th birthday party.
Oh.
Not gonna tell the story, but
I
I'll
remember being grounded once for smoking in fifth grade.
I like it.
We stole my mom's cigarettes and smoked behind the garage with my next door neighbor, and she found
That's
out.
so great. As a complete non sequitur, I think we have a skunk living behind our next door neighbor's garage.
Why
And
do you think that?
because remember I told you the cat was fighting with an animal?
You think it was a skunk?
Yeah, I think it was because I saw the skunk walking back there yesterday. Skunks
Great.
are so beautiful.
They're so cute and fluffy.
Yeah, but man, they don't smell good. All right, so well, let's finish on this. How did it all turn out? It's not over. They are 17 and 19 and still very much dependent on us.
Still undeveloped prefrontal cortexes.
Completely and totally. The brain does develops till 25. That is my mantra of late. Give them a break. Their brain is not fully formed. But the main thing I think it's important that we both want to say is they are not perfect children. They are normal kids with mental health issues and insecurity issues and the normal things that everybody I think you can't escape. But the
Yeah.
flip side is I think they are very independent kids, very able to take care of themselves in a way, very well adjusted to adults,
Yes.
which it's really fascinating to have your kids' friends come in and like he comes in with two kids. One of them goes, "Hey, Mr. Fitzgordon, how are you?" And the other one like will not look at you and runs upstairs.
Right.
And we know Reggie is that kid who just wants to talk to every parent.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting because it's an experiment that's still ongoing.
Yeah. And I mean, we had a lot of ideals when we first started out on this journey. And we made choices based on those ideals, and they still hold true now. What we want for our kids is to be confident, adults that can take care of themselves and are going to do good in the world, not that there's pressure to like do it in a major global way, but like that they exist in a world where they are like contributing to their community.
Totally. Yeah, it's complicated to watch and think about who they're gonna turn out to be. And like on a negative way, I think we are not the most ambitious people.
Uh-huh.
And I feel like I fear that we have given them that in a
Right.
strange way. And we didn't demand anything of them. We are the opposite of what's the opposite of a helicopter? A rowboat, we're rowboat parents or something like that.
We weren't like what's the dragon, the one who like forces the kid to practice piano for hours.
Yeah. So
Tiger
like,
mom. We weren't
yeah,
tiger
we did
parents.
not do like we're pussycat parents. Like we
Right.
did not um, force them or create that kind of discipline. And we lack that in a certain way. Like what we said earlier, like we made this maybe very stupid choice for you to stop working when we had bills to pay.
Right.
So that's really interesting. And I don't think all
No
attachment,
regrets.
no regrets
Yeah.
ever. And I don't think all attachment parenting people lack ambition, that kind of thing. But it is interesting the things we chose to instill against the things we didn't. And
Right. Like raising a
here,
couple of artists versus raising, people who are all about success and money and
well, I tell Reggie, the way you like to spend money, you should go study finance.
right.
Don't
Go
go
be a
study,
banker.
don't go study film, go to Wall Street. But I don't see that happening.
I don't
But so
either.
that's always a really interesting thing that I don't think we'll ever look back at with regret. But it's like, oh, I know my parents didn't push me in that way, nor would I have been able to be pushed, is like my feeling.
You would not have been able to be pushed.
I don't think so.
Yeah. I mean, you rebelled.
From the first second.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
mean, I had a conversation with my
That
dad.
was in response to our home life. I really believe that, even really young.
Yeah. But I think it's also just your nature. You just
Totally.
have to forge your own path. But I remember my dad when I was a junior in college, my brother was a senior, my sister was about to enter college. And suddenly having this talk with us about how we needed to study finance. And I was like, wait, this is not going to work for me. I forged my own path. I did not have a direction, just kind of like wound my way through life. And I've been thinking about reflecting on that a lot as our children are approaching adulthood, the path that I chose and what theirs will be. It's like actually kind of thrilling to imagine what it will be. Getting some
Absolutely.
vicarious pleasure out of just seeing them at this age and how just full of potential it is and how they do have a good foundation to grow from.
Well, it's also really interesting because I think it's pretty clear that Ida is going to become a teacher, and she seems to have a real gift for working with kids with special needs.
Yeah.
Reggie is way more open-ended. When I was 15, I said I want to be a filmmaker. And I pursued it to a degree. I worked on movies, I was a PA, I wrote a bunch of scripts and realized I lack ambition. I wrote all these scripts. I had no idea how to sell them. And I gave up that dream and with again no regrets because it's unbelievable where my life has led me and can't believe the work I do and how lucky I am and it's a beautiful thing. But where Ida I think is kind of like she's going to be a teacher, Reggie we don't know.
We have no idea.
We have no
And
idea.
Ida, yeah, I mean, it could change too. Like,
Totally.
who knows? Yeah,
Yeah. But it's funny because I think she's going to really like being a teacher and having that structure and
yeah.
having that kind of thing.
I
Uh,
mean, I don't think she's planning on being a classroom teacher.
no, I get it. But education,
Yeah,
like she's on a path.
yeah,
And
exactly.
Reggie is on a very painful path that like 90% of the people don't get to fulfill. Right.
Right. If he sticks on that path, yeah.
Yeah. It's really hard to say I want to be something that's hard to be. And especially if you lack that drive and ambition, it makes it almost impossible. Like success has nothing to do with talent in a lot of ways. It's about that socializing and that kind of thing that I obviously completely lack.
Drive and
Yeah.
yeah, and luck. A lot of
All
luck.
right. This has been a very fun conversation.
Yes,
Third podcast together. Always a pleasure.
of course.
We can meet in the kitchen afterwards to go over notes if you want.
You in the kitchen.
Anything to follow up? Anything we missed before we sign off?
I don't know. The thing that's been coming up is regrets. And do you have any parenting regrets? I mean, you did kind of talk about them.
I yelled at Ida one night on Cortelyou Road, and I still feel shame about that. I lost my shit.
Yeah.
She was two. I don't. Was Reggie a baby? I don't even.
Reggie was a baby. We were like
Like
out
three.
for dinner because it was
Yeah.
just exhausting to have two.
Oh, that place with that chicken mole. What was the name of that? Oh my God, that was such good.
The Mexican place. I can't remember.
Brooklyn was the best. You can get like nine variations on Mexican food, like
Yeah.
different regions. So it was that place that I loved their mole. And
Yeah.
I don't have any memory of what it was that Ida was doing or not doing. But
I know she was being a 2.5-year-old.
yeah, and I took her outside and I was so angry. I was just so angry. And these two guys passing by and looked at me like, what is that guy doing?
Oh,
And I just have this memory of, oh my God, what kind of beast are you?
yeah.
And I just don't have any of that anymore.
Right.
With Reg, he annoys me, but it's unbelievable how 10 years later, 12 years later, whatever, I smile when he does annoying things.
Right.
I don't know what, I had no control in that moment. That's my regret, like that
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah, I think, mine is similar in the sense that like I wasn't managing my anger very well either. Like I'd never felt anything like that before. And so the times when I lost my shit and yelled, I feel bad about. But my bigger like event regret is when Ida went to camp and we didn't bring her home.
Oh, genuinely the worst parenting move of your life.
That's for the next one. We'll discuss
Okay,
it
great. Oh, the pain. Well, that Ida still remarks like the worst thing you ever did to me. That's great. All right, let's call it a day.
later.
Uh,
Okay.
thank you so much. I'm so glad you made me share that story of my shame. And
Are you?
no, not at all.
I'm
Uh,
sorry.
but shame is powerful.
Yeah.
You got to live with it, and you got to embrace it, and take it for what it is.
And learn from it.
Totally. All right, we have a nice steamy day here in Cleveland. I'm going to go for a bike ride. That's about that. So, if you are enjoying this podcast, especially with my new co-host Caitlin, you can help us in a few different ways. One is just to follow us on whatever platform you do listen. We're on all platforms, Apple, Spotify, iTunes. So just follow, give us a follow. If you wanted to write us a review, that would be a really great thing for us. It's really super helpful. We love feedback, and any kind of feedback you have for us would be appreciated. We take requests if you have anything you want us to talk about. We'll get back to pain relief at some point, but I also think it's really fun to explore new topics. And I really appreciate Caitlin's expertise on these things where I am somewhat lacking. Anything to add, Kate, to finish?
I think, we do have a lot of opinions and we made specific choices that worked for us. And I think if you're parenting and it's hard, just trust yourself, be kind to yourself, be kind to each other. You'll get through it.
Be kind to yourself is the ultimate mantra. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Another thing that I always say to Reggie is choose kindness.
Yes.
If you have a choice to make, choose kindness.
Yes.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Thanks for listening. Have a great one.